How is it possible for the Rangers to be this bad at the start and end of games and periods? We're calling them out for it in today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers.
You're Locked On the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1236 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, terrible performance, 4-0 loss. The last 40 minutes of this game in particular were just absolutely egregious by the Rangers. Just no urgency, no fight, no attentiveness to details, a lot of mistakes being made. One of those games when it's all said and done, this is the ultimate test. Try to point to me, without mentioning the fourth line, I should get that out of the way first. Try to point to me a New York Ranger who played well, who looked good in this game, other than the three guys on the fourth line. It's kind of hard to do, right? Absolutely brutal. And one of the biggest problems that the Rangers had in this game is also one of the biggest problems that they've had the entire season. This team is absolutely asleep at the wheel when it comes to the start and end of games and periods. All 4 goals scored by the Canes came within either the first 2:30 of a period or the last 2:30 of a period. Crunch time, the time when you're supposed to be laser focused, the time when you're supposed to be at your best. And what makes it even worse, or I guess, in some ways, maybe more cathartic, depending on how you look at it, because a lot of Ranger fans have been calling out the star players. All 4 of these goals fell on the Ranger star players. I use that term loosely because at this point, can we call Mika a star player? I'm sorry, I couldn't even finish that sentence. Can we call Mika a star player? Can we call Kreider a star player? Probably not at this point. I think that's more than fair to say. But the bottom line, we'll just say the high-paid guys, the guys that get the fattest paychecks on the team. All this fell on them. To do the quick roll call here, you look at the 4 goals scored by the Canes. You had terrible mistake by Panarin. You had an inexplicable mistake by Vincent Trocheck. You had a lackadaisical mistake by Chris Kreider. And the Mika play, I'm not sure I would really call it a mistake, but just a complete absence of any kind of compete level. There was nothing there, and the Canes scored as a result of that as well. So let's go ahead and go through them. We'll start with the first goal, obviously. This one happened, 56 seconds into the game, whatever it was there. So you have a situation where the Mika line is out there with Borgen and Miller, and the Rangers win the faceoff. They control for a little bit. They eventually go off for a line change on the fly. And one more thing I got to throw out here. We'll get back to this sequence in a second, but as a quick aside, when the Rangers change on the fly, why do they move like turtles? Am I the only one that's picked up on this? I've really been noticing it a lot this season. I haven't really talked about it on here. I haven't seen anybody else talk about it either, but pay attention to that going forward. I want you guys to keep me honest here. Tell me if I'm off the mark or tell me if I've picked up on something here. When the Rangers go off for a line change on the fly, I realize you can't skate full board to the bench and launch yourself over the boards and into one of your teammates to get off the ice. I understand that. But these guys, whether they're going through the door there or whether they're going over the boards, these guys slow to a crawl when they're changing on the fly. And the guys coming onto the ice, they don't exactly, jump out there with a whole lot more energy than the guys leaving the ice. They just look slow, tired. I mean, I can understand if you're at the end of a 2-minute shift and you're blocking all these shots and taking a beating. Maybe your team's shorthanded at the time too. This is 30 seconds into the game. These guys are going out for a change and they look like they can barely move. Riley Smith was one of them. It was hard to tell who some of the other players were, but all of them there's no urgency to get off the ice, to get on the ice. And we're only talking about a difference of 2 or 3 seconds tops, but that's a massive 2 or 3 seconds. That's all it takes sometimes to go the other way if you're the Ranger opponents and produce a scoring chance out of it. Now, of course, the goal that the Canes ended up scoring here, I don't think we can really say that it was a result of this because, it was another 30 seconds or so after this line change until they scored. But be that as it may, that's something to keep an eye on. I want you guys to, again, keep me honest on that. Let me know if you pick up on it or if you have picked up on it already, certainly going forward as well. But to continue this play here, you got Panarin making a turnover in the neutral zone. He decided to take on the entire Canes team by himself. It didn't really go very well. And then you've got a pass back to Svechnikov at the center of the ice, kind of near the blue line. Svechnikov just waltzes in, completely uncontested, takes a shot, and scores. And let me also say here, Igor Shesterkin, he didn't get any help here. We know that. This is a tough shot as well. We know that. But is this guy ever ready to make a save at the start of games? If you look at like a collection of the softer goals that Igor Shesterkin has allowed this season, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be a pretty high percentage of them that occur, a minute into the game, 2 minutes into the game, 5 minutes into the game, whatever it is. This is not the warm-up period, Igor. The game has started. You got to make a save here, just like you got to make a save in the third period. And I don't think Igor was the biggest problem with the Rangers, but he certainly wasn't a solution on this night either. You also had Steve Valiquette calling out Artemi Panarin during the first intermission, said that he needs to sit a shift. I would have had no problem with that whatsoever. And then we got this quote from Panarin after the game, talking about, he was asked why the Rangers are scuffling so bad, beginning of periods, end of periods, and this is what he had to say. We just have to stay focused from beginning to end. Bread, this was game 50. This was game 50. Why are you not focused now? You're in the middle of a playoff race. You're on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. You are playing a division rival who, in theory, you're trying to catch. The Rangers are not going to catch the Canes. I mean, a playoff spot, I would say, despite everything, is still at least somewhat on the table. I don't know how likely it is, but this team's not catching the Canes. But this has now happened where the Rangers have given up a goal in the first 2 minutes of a game 9 times this season. That is the most of any team in the NHL. That is not championship hockey. That is not even playoff hockey. And here's Panarin talking about, we just have to do it better. What are you waiting for, man? And I realize, look, there's 82 games. Sooner or later, you're going to give up a goal at the start of a game, or you're going to give up a goal late in a period, whatever it might be. But this is the norm. This is the default setting for this Ranger team. They do this all the time. And that's nearly 20% of their games. You've given up a goal in the first 2 minutes of a game once every 5 games. If they haven't fixed it by now, they're not going to fix it. And maybe they'll get it somewhat under control, but the biggest reason will probably be if he's awake, Igor Shesterkin will probably make like a really nice save to bail them out, because that seems to be their defensive strategy. Certainly in this game, Igor can just bail us out of every mistake that we make. Case in point, how about the second mistake that was made that led to the second Canes goal? I mean, there were other mistakes, but we're just talking about the goals. Vincent Trocheck. So they have a power play, do the Canes. There's a cross-check called on Ryan Lindgren. He got Aho in the neutral zone. And Trocheck makes a fantastic play at the top of the Rangers zone here. While the team is still shorthanded, he steals the puck. He's going the other way. He's in the clear. He's on a breakaway. Now, he does have a defender pretty close to him who's bearing down, trying to do anything he can to slow him down. But Trocheck's in the clear. He's a stride or two ahead of this guy, and he's got an uncontested breakaway to Anderson, to the Canes net. And what does he do? He tries to leave a drop pass for K'Andre Miller. Take the shot. It's a breakaway. The Rangers do this all the time. I can't even believe I'm saying that. This is something that the Rangers do constantly. This has happened no less than at least 4 or 5 times this season where somebody has a breakaway and they try to pass. We've seen Mika Zibanejad do it. We've seen multiple players do it. And look, I understand these guys are the professional athletes, not me, not you. I mean, maybe there's a pro athlete listening to this, but I mean, regardless, these are the pro athletes. These are the pro hockey players. They understand when they need to shoot the puck more than we do. And I don't want to always be that person that's just yelling shoot the entire time, but it's a breakaway. Like, who on earth is watching this play happen live? Whether you're in the building, watching at home, whatever it might be, Trocheck has a breakaway here, right? Who that's watching this game is thinking, oh, you got Miller behind you. Pass to Miller. Pass it to Miller. And I'm not picking on K'Andre Miller. I know we've done that at times this season. This could be any player in the world. This could be any player in the history of this sport. This could be prime Mark Messier out there. The play to make here is not to drop it for the guy trailing the play. And the puck never got there. It went off the, I think it was the skate of the defender that was chasing Trocheck, and the Canes picked it back up. They went the other way. They go over the blue line, and Svechnikov scores with 30 seconds left in the period. So just an absolute backbreaker there. Another late goal permitted by the Rangers, and just a inexplicable decision by Trocheck. I know after the game he was talking about how like he didn't think he had it and it wouldn't do any good to shoot right into his stomach basically. Take the shot, man. Anderson's a good goalie when he's healthy. We know that, but he's not a god among men. Like, just take the shot. Maybe you get one through him. You're going to leave a drop pass? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And again, I get it. They're the pro athletes, not us. And he's got to make this decision in a couple of seconds. But you watch Trocheck on this breakaway, he's turning around and looking back, like while he's on the way into the offensive zone, like presumably thinking to pass. Why? Just go. Look at what's in front of you. You've got a clear path to the net. Man. Okay, so we're halfway through the goals. We're going to keep going here. We're going to call out certainly Mika and Kreider because the two of them made mistakes that led to the third and fourth goal that were scored by the Canes. We will do that in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Attending the NFL playoffs is an unforgettable experience that brings fans together. I've attended a handful of NFL playoff games in the past. I was at the Tuck Rule game for some reason, not really sure why, but I was there. I saw the Jets destroy the Colts by about 40 points, a shutout win a whole bunch of years ago. It's like 2002 maybe. And I saw the Giants post a home win against the Falcons. So obviously, I remember the excitement, the energy of the playoff games that I've been to, and looking forward to making some new memories whenever I get back to a playoff game, maybe a Ranger playoff game, but I'm not so sure that'll happen this year. Bottom line, though, Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for events even faster and even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so that you do not have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Huge shout-out to the everydayers, as always, for tuning in, sticking with this team through all the good, through all the bad. We've got one more episode to do this week. Rangers actually don't play until Saturday against the Bruins, and that might be a good thing. I think maybe we could all use a little break from watching this team. But we will have another episode. We'll take a look at that matchup between the Rangers and Bruins. And I have this weird feeling that we could get some breaking news between now and the next game as far as, the Rangers possibly wheeling and dealing, whatever it might be. But for right now, let's go ahead and keep the focus on this train wreck of a hockey game that we saw the Rangers play last night. So let's go to the third Canes goal, okay? This one's completely on Chris Kreider. He's got the puck along the boards in the defensive zone, tries to move the puck along the boards. The Canes hold it in. One pass later, Aho scores. 3-0, just a minute and 4 seconds into the third period. And at this point, this is where I stopped taking notes. I think I've only done this maybe one other time this season, maybe twice, because they went through some brutal hockey. And at this point, I just threw my hands up. I said, you know what? I've got everything I need. The Rangers aren't coming back. They'll be lucky to get a goal. Of course, they did not get a goal. We know what we're going to be talking about for this one. So there was no point in continuing to take notes after this part. But, just a bad mistake by Kreider. And this is secondary to the turnover, but once the turnover was made, I don't know. Did you guys think that Kreider really did enough to try to prevent this guy from getting the pass to Aho, prevent the Canes from scoring a goal here? Because I would think that if you made a turnover this bad, this egregious here, that you are going to do everything you can possibly do to prevent that puck from ending up in the back of the net, because you've already made a big mistake. But at least if you can keep them from scoring, okay, we move forward, right? And then you're only down 2-0 at that point, and maybe you still have a chance. But he didn't really do that. He didn't really do much of anything. He kind of drifted to where the puck was, which seems to be Kreider's default speed, default setting, just kind of drifting around the ice right now. Like, is he injured? If he is, I guess you got to give him at least some props for playing through whatever it is that's ailing him. But at the same time, if he still is injured, if the back is still a problem, whatever it might be, then sit out for a few games. Because you watch a game like this, Kreider's not doing anything to help the Rangers. He's only hurting the Rangers. And so if it is injury related, then sit out. And I know the Rangers have been struggling, and maybe he does. Like, maybe we underestimate how much this matters to these guys, because there's times where you watch their performance and you think, like, my God, like, does anybody out there even care? Maybe this matters that much to Kreider that he's trying to gut it out through some agonizing pain. We don't know, because they're not going to tell us. And even if they did, I mean, we don't know exactly what Kreider is feeling as far as, how painful the injury is and how much it's compromising him out there. But if you're hurt, then sit out, because this is not helping. I think it's also going to be pretty telling. We've got the Four Nations face-off in a couple of weeks here. The Rangers have 5 more games between now and then. Kreider is on Team USA, so if he goes out there and plays, then I got to believe that it's not really injury-related. If he doesn't play, then clearly, yes, there is a lingering injury. So that'll finally kind of give us an idea, I think, of what's going on with Kreider here. If some of this can be chalked up to him being injured. But I don't know, man. I mean, again, this poor play that the Rangers exhibit at the start of every game, the end of every game, the start of every period, the end of every period, to me, a lot of that falls on leadership. And again, it's Kreider, it's Mika, Panarin, and Trocheck. Those 4 messed up in this game. It leads directly to goals by the Canes. These are supposed to be the leaders of your team. These are the guys that have to drill it into the heads of the teammates and all the young guys on this team that, man, you got to be razor sharp in these spots in the game. The Canes are razor sharp in these spots in the game. Why can't the Rangers be? The Canes were on, I mean, they played a strong hockey game. Look, you got to give some credit to the opposition, right? It's obviously a good team, and they played very well recently. But the Rangers just played right into their hands. I mean, they gave them some of these goals. So, I don't know. I mean, there's no one, seemingly, coaches, leaders, whatever it might be, that's emphasizing the need to be sharp at the beginning and the ends of periods. This is not the time to take a little break. When a game starts, you're not in the warm-up period. The game has begun. And you might be able to get away with giving up an early goal against the Flyers. Then you can come back and beat them 6-1, which is exactly what the Rangers did, a couple of games ago. You might be able to, who was it? The Blackhawks. They gave up a goal pretty early in that game, and I think the final of that one ended up being 6-2 in favor of the Rangers. So yeah, you can get away with it against, average teams, below average teams. You're not going to get away with it against the Carolina Hurricanes, not even close. And if you actually do make it to the playoffs, which is, again, is sounding like a major stretch after this performance and how much this has cost them in the standings. But if you get there, you're going to be going up against one of these teams, one of these elite teams in the league. There's not going to be any Chicago Blackhawks in the playoffs. I don't think the Flyers are going to be there either. And if they are, they're not going to be playing the Rangers in the first round. They'll be like the last 2 teams in if they both make it. So you just got to be better than this. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. They need to go with the 4th line to start the next game, because that's the only line that's out there grinding and playing hard-nosed hockey. They're giving you an honest effort a lot more than a lot of other guys are. And while we're talking about Kreider, we'll save that for later, because I do want to talk about the power play in a little bit. Some people have talked about, hey, you got to do something different with the power play unit, and I agree. We'll get to that later, and I'll talk about Kreider, just messing up the easiest goal that he could have ever scored in his life. But for right now, let's move on to the 4th goal here. This one's on Mika. So again, 4-0, basically right after this. It's 2:30 into the 3rd period, and the Canes get 2 goals. This one is by Jarvis. So this is like a microcosm of like everything that the Rangers do wrong all at once here. We know that they struggle in the goal, or the shift after a goal. That was true even last year when the Rangers had the best record in the league. That was an Achilles heel of this team. It's certainly true this year. And again, we're still in the early parts of the 3rd period here, so they messed up in that regard as well. But you've got a goal by Jarvis. The puck's behind the net. Borgen's playing his guy. He chases him into the corner. He does body him. His opponent was able to move the puck along. Puck's behind the net. And Mika's back there. Mika does not even try on this play. He doesn't even try to try. I mean, stick your nose in there and fight for the puck, man. You can't find an easier player to play hockey against right now in this league than Mika Zibanejad. I can't even imagine how excited opposing team centers must get when they know they're playing the Rangers and they know they're going up against Mika Zibanejad, because Mika's supposed to be the number 1 center here. I know the Panarin line has been typically listed as the top line, at least more often than not recently. But yeah, I mean, if you're an opposing 1 center, 2 center, whatever it might be on the Canes or really any team, and you're going up against the Rangers and you're going to be out there against Mika Zibanejad, it's time to go out there and be a bully and pad your stats. There's not going to be any resistance. And there wasn't any resistance on this play. I don't want everything to always be tied to the cap hit that every player has, but this is your $8.5 million center. Did that look like $8.5 million of effort and fight and grit and will to win on that play from Mika Zibanejad? And all these mistakes that the Rangers made in this game, they would be at least somewhat forgivable. Because look, every team has a bad game every now and then, right? I'm sure the Canes have had some bad games. Any team that's at or near the top of the standings has had a game that you just kind of burn the film when it's over. But again, this is the default setting. That's a term I keep using in today's episode. This is the Rangers. Like this, they're under 500, and we're 50 games into the season, and there's too many games. There's too many instances where there are far too many mistakes being made and just not enough will, not enough compete level. And that was on full display here for Mika Zibanejad. Here's a stat for Mika, by the way, because he had another breakaway in this game, did not score. He is now 1 for 11 on breakaways this season. They announced that during the game. I don't believe that includes the one shootout that he had. I don't think that's included in that stat. And if it's not, that means he's 1 for 12. And, this is a guy that used to be automatic in that situation. Nobody could stop him. What happened there? What happened? Why can't he score on a breakaway? You listen to him after the game, Mika Zibanejad, and he says something like, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it was basically like, well, we've been playing a lot better in January. Yes, you have, Mika. The team has obviously been a lot better in January than it had been in December or November. You know what? That's a very, very low bar to clear. And regardless of whether they've been better or not, you're still in a spot here where you're on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. So the idea that you could just shrug this one off and, we'll just move on to the next one, we'll get them next time. Every game is massive right now. If you're still clinging to the belief that this team can get into the playoffs, every game is absolutely huge. You can't afford to just take a night off. You can't afford to just shrug it off and say, oh, well, not our night. Nothing we can do, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's part of that's one of many reasons why I think Mika Zibanejad has come under fire from Ranger fans this season. That people are just done with these post-game shrug it off kind of quotes from Mika Zibanejad. Kreider after this game was interviewed, and at least he was a little bit accountable and put some of the blame on himself, said something like he had 3 different chances to make a big play for the team, wasn't able to do it. Mika, you just don't really get that. And, I'm just, the bar has been set so low for some of these guys right now. I'm at the point where I'm tired of handing out cookies to these guys. Every time that they do something even somewhat good, like if Mika Zibanejad makes good contact on a one-timer, I'm not even talking about scoring. I'm just talking about making good contact on it, not shanking his shot, not breaking his stick, not completely whiffing on the puck, actually making good contact, whether he shoots wide or right into the breadbasket. I see that now, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a step in the right direction for Mika Zibanejad. Again, this is your one center and the guy making $8.5 million per season. It shouldn't be a situation where every time him or any of these star players, again, quote unquote star players, does something good that we have to give them a little pat on the head. How about, another situation would be like if Kreider scores a goal or if he gets a big clear on a penalty kill, oh, all right, cool, good stuff. We're moving in the right direction. What does it matter? They're not good enough. They're not getting the job done. They're going to make a decent play every once in a while. I don't want to always have to celebrate it, Oh, my God. So in just a second, we're going to keep everything rolling. We're pretty much going to stay right on topic here and continue talking about the star players, but we're going to do it in the form of discussing the Ranger power play units and why it is very likely time to make some changes to the top unit. We will get to that in just a second. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode by once again talking a little bit about the power play and what the Rangers are doing wrong and what changes can be made. Before we get to that, I should also point out that the Rangers did make some changes going in to the third period. The line combinations were a little bit different. Trocheck was out there with Cooley and Smith. You had Hedl with Kreider and Panarin. They moved Kreider to the right side. Not that even matters at this point because, with Kreider playing the way that he did in this game, it doesn't matter if he's playing left wing, right wing, center, defense. There just wasn't a whole lot going on from Chris Kreider in this game. But you look at the power plays, Rangers go 0 for 3 because, of course, they did. Now, to be completely fair, the Rangers, coming into this game, had been 4 for their last 10 on the power play. So they had been a little bit better recently, obviously. But there were multiple people. I noticed the comment section in the last episode that were asking me to review the power play, talk about what can be done, why are Mika and Kreider out there, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll get to that in just a second. But I just want to point out a couple of things that happen on these power plays. So the first one here, and again, I talked about how they're 4 for their last 10. After this game last night, though, 19.9% success rate in the season, 21st in the league. That is a far cry from what they did last year. Last year, they had the number 3 power play in the league at 26.4%. So they have obviously not gotten even close to replicating that success. And, there's a situation here where the Rangers have a chance to score. There's a centering pass to Mika Zibanejad. He's right in the center of the ice. He winds back, takes the one-timer, and this goes back to what I was just talking about. He makes good contact, gets good wood on it, shoots the puck wide. He's in the slot right in the middle of the ice, and he shoots the puck wide. And Joe was talking about how, when you're off with your shot, just aim for the center of the net. Try to just hit the goalie right in the stomach, and then maybe you'll miss by a little bit, and it'll go in, and then there's something to be said for that, I think, for sure. At least put it on net. At least force this guy to make a save. He didn't do that. A couple more saves by Anderson, but they weren't like golden chances by the Rangers on this one. You've got a Panarin with a one-timer from up high, and then, this top power play unit, not only have they been bad, but they hog the ice time. And I realize, when you're on the power play, if you're in the offensive zone, you're not going to suddenly just start skating to the bench. But my God, these guys stay on the ice for a long time. It wasn't until 22 seconds remained that the first 2 Ranger power play unit members finally went off the ice. And, that they went off for their guys. But at that point, there's no time left in the power play. The second unit has no chance. It's funny because, in a recent episode, a couple episodes back, I guess, but we're talking about the power play, just kind of in general. And I'm talking about the second power play unit and who I'd like to be there. What does it matter? They never get a chance anyway. They never start a power play. That can't happen. God forbid. And by the time they get onto the ice, when a power play is about to expire, there's like 30 seconds left or 35 seconds left or 22 seconds left, like in the case of this one. And in this case, again, it was only 2 members of the Ranger top power play unit that went off. So some of them, I don't think ever even got onto the ice here. It was basically the full 2 minutes for the majority of the Ranger top power play unit. Like there was an episode not long ago where we're talking about Will Cooley and man, it'd be great to see him get going again. And I'm talking about the idea of him being on the second power play unit because at the time he wasn't a member of the second power play unit. Again, what does it matter? They don't get to see the ice anyway. It doesn't matter who's on the second power play unit. Why even waste our energy worrying about it? They don't play. They don't get a chance. And if they do, it's with the puck in the Rangers zone behind the net with 25 seconds to go on the power play. What are they supposed to do at that time? Especially when, the Ranger top unit is lollygagging off the ice. That goes back to something else we talked about. These guys are so slow when they're changing on the fly. What are they supposed to do at that time? There's not really much that they can do. So, all right, second power play opportunity in this game. This is the one that Kreider had a chance to bury it from the doorstep and did not accomplish that feat. This was a goal. This was a goal. Mika Zibanejad actually made a really nice pass here. You had Panarin passing from one side across the ice to Mika Zibanejad on the left side. And then Mika sees Kreider. He's in deep right next to the net. And he passes in deep to Kreider. Kreider receives the pass. Anderson can't really get over there. He's kind of like stumbling a little bit because he had to move quickly to his right to prepare for a possible shot from Mika. Now he's got to stop and go back to his left. It's right there. This is a tap and goal. College players score on this. High school players score on this. Chris Kreider did not score on this. I don't know what happened. The puck hit him, right on the tape, and he just kind of fumbled it. Just never really got control of it, lost control of it, and ended up putting the puck right into Freddie Anderson. Now, at first, I thought this was a phenomenal save by Anderson. It still doesn't excuse the fact that Kreider didn't get the shot off right away because he had a wide open net. But I did say, okay, well, you got to tip your cap at least a little bit to the goalie. That's not even the case. Watch the replay. The replay of this, Anderson probably got credited with a save on this play, but he really shouldn't because if this puck never made contact with Anderson and his left skate, his left pad there, it still wouldn't have gone into the net. When Kreider moved this puck, it was going basically almost straight across the crease and even a little bit away from the net, somewhat diagonally, like away from toward the top of the crease there. So this shouldn't have even been a shot on net. Kreider has an easy tap in goal and doesn't even get a shot away. And it was only, I think at this point, it was only 1-0. So this is your ticket back into the game. Let's go. Let's pick things up. And it obviously just doesn't happen. Needs to be a goal. Kreider can't handle a basic pass. Can't score on a wide open net. And again, at least he was accountable after the game and kind of put some of these things on himself. he's got to score on this. No other way to say it. Third power play. This is the third and final power play. Again, at this point, I had stopped taking notes. And this is only the second or third time all season I've done this because what was the point by that part of the game? But awful start to this power play, just not possessing the puck. I'm just going on memory here. And the Canes eventually clear the puck, and Laviolette had finally seen enough of this first unit. They went off for a change with about 1:05 to go. Second unit went on. They were equally terrible. A lot of booing from this crowd. They were really booing the first unit. And then there were sporadic views the rest of the way in this game. But, they were down by 4-0 at this point. And if you thought the Rangers were going to show any fight and try to get back into this, no, that is not what happened. So as far as possible changes to this power play, the tough part about it, and we're talking specifically about the top unit now, because I do think you need to do something different, try some kind of different, group of forwards, something. I think what makes this tough is there are no obvious options as far as who you should put out there on that top unit. Do you want to go with Lafreniere, the guy that's been a complete ghost ever since he signed his extension? We're signaling out the Rangers star players, the quote-unquote star players, the high-paid players on this team in this episode. I haven't really talked about Lafreniere yet, but Lafreniere is officially graduated to that group. So when I come on here and I talk about, the star players, the would-be star players, or the high-paid players, Lafreniere is in that group now. He's not in the, underdog young players anymore because he just signed this massive extension that's going to pay him more than $7 million per season. And ever since he's done that, he's made little to no positive impact on the Rangers. He didn't make any egregious mistakes in this game. He did what he's been doing all along ever since signing that extension. He was basically a ghost. I know, a game or two ago, he had a really nice assist on a rush into the zone. That's all well and good, but there's been far too little of that recently for Lafreniere. But are you going to put Lafreniere in the top unit? I guess you could put Cooley there. You could take Mika and Kreider off of it. I think that's at least a start. But and I talk about the fourth liners. I love how they've played. I don't know that the key to scoring more power play goals is putting Matt Rempe and Sam Carrick on the top unit. If you want to try it, though, I'm not going to go crazy about it. That's a way to send a message. These guys are busting their tails, and until you overpaid stars do something useful, do something productive, they're our top power play now. You know what? Do it. Who cares? It's not like it get a whole lot worse. And again, I know the Rangers had a recent 4-for-10 stretch on the power play. So what? The bulk of the season, 50 games at this point, the power play has not been good enough. They are below average after being third in the league last year, and it's the same exact players, the same 5 players on the top unit, the same 5 players that are always out there for the entire power play. So you know what? Put Matt Rempe, Adam Edstrom, and Sam Carrick on the power play, the top power play. Just put them out there. Fox can stay. We need a defenseman. And as far as another forward, give me Will Cooley. Why not? Or Hedl. Somebody like that. Anyway, we'll call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17. Once again, @JCHIK17. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.